What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 8 betting preview. Today, of course, we'll build our Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey. And Stuck, before I ask you how you are, I'll tell you a little story. Had one of my boys over to watch the Niners game. He's a big Niners fan, so I've been watching a little college football on Saturdays. So I asked him about the Volunteers game because I knew that a bunch of his boys went there. So I'm like, "Yo, did you have Tennessee?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I had Tennessee." And like, I'm like, "What do you mean they won? Why are you so upset?" He's like, "Nah, I meant the Titans." And that's how I found out that you bet the Titans again. So I'm here for you. If you need anything, I got you. But how you doing, brother?
Yeah, they got to 10. I had to play them. I would play them again. They're up 10-7 in the second half. This is what you get with a desperate team. Up 10-7 in the second half. D is playing really well, and they go for it on 4th and 2 in their own territory. And in the third quarter, and they just run a basic dive, get stuffed, and the game gets flipped. But yeah, once it got to 10 and Levis wasn't playing, I had to play it. Lost again, typical. Uh yeah, it was another bad week on the six pack for me. I mean, it's getting kind of crazy at this point with the injury situations. I mean, it's been my worst 7 week stretch in 7 years in this pod, and it's the best 7 week stretch I've ever had with I went back and looked on as far as closing line value. So I'm getting good numbers. I I can't buy anything late, and the injuries are crazy. I had the Browns against the Bengals. Game goes, I don't know exactly how I thought it would go. The Bengals have 200 total yards of offense. They return the opening kick for a touchdown. The Browns miss an extra point, a field goal. But Watson, who was efficient in their new offense, gets hurt. They didn't. I mean, you can't
They
even make it
didn't
up.
get Winston up.
They didn't dress Winston because they didn't want the crowd
Well,
chanting
they
his
dressed
name.
him. They dressed him, but
They
he was
didn't have
in
him as the
third. So they
second
had they
quarterback.
had a fake an injury, or maybe he was a real injury. But yeah,
Yes, but DCR had a finger injury, comes in, and he was horrendous. There was two picks, um, and of course they miss an extra point, a field goal, and they lose by the hook. I have the 49ers, -1. I have a bunch of cheap money line. I was like, I think this line should be 2.5, 3. Two of the biggest betting groups in the world hit them on Sunday with the limits through the roof. It closes almost 3, and their entire team gets hurt. I mean, you're talking Debo, and then Ayuk are out, Kittle gets banged up, and Jennings is already out. You're talking a 4 to 5 point downgrade, and even worse, you didn't game plan for those guys being out. So I mean, yeah, it was just another one of those Sundays, but ready to roll, ready to get hot.
all right, let's do it. We'll jump into our Thursday night football preview. Then, of course, we'll go straight to the Sunday six pack. Let's start with this Thursday night game. Vikings at the Rams, +3 is the number. The total is 48. This is a tough spot, I think, for Minnesota on the short term. Not so much for going on the road, but as our guy Kerner points out, teams tend to struggle after playing the Lions. I don't know if it's just because the Lions are so physical and just so good, but I could see the Vikings kind of getting off to a kind of a slow start. But I do think that they're going to have some advantages on offense. But then the Rams, they look like they're getting back Cooper Kupp. So I think this line is about right at 3. What say you?
Yeah, I took some three small. I mean, I hate Thursday night football, mainly on the spot. I mean, maybe there's an outside chance in Nakua. I mean, I don't think he's going to play, but his practice window open, so you never know. He could be out there, but Cooper Kupp will be back. TJ Hawkinson on the other side, he could also be back. So there's some injury uncertainty here. But yeah, it's a tough spot for the Vikings. They put everything into that game against Detroit, lose in the final seconds. Now you have a quick turnaround out on the West Coast against a desperate Rams team. I mean, if you look at the standings, I mean, they've been ravaged by injuries, have had a tough year, but are, win this game, and they're right back in the thick of it in the division, especially when you consider all of the injuries that the 49ers are dealing with. I mean, Ayuk out for the year. Who knows when Debo's coming back? So the 49ers look much more vulnerable. So I think you get the best effort here. The interesting thing about this matchup too is there's a lot of trade rumors between with these teams. So if the Rams lose this game and maybe the next, maybe they become sellers. Maybe they become sellers to Minnesota. But I just took the 3 here. It's nothing strong that I love, but the Rams offense, it's been in dire need of getting at least one of their 2 receivers back. It's a whole it's just a different animal when they have Kupp and or Nakua out there. So I think Darnold has been, getting away with some throws. This Minnesota team's probably been playing above its head a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams prepped a little bit last week for this game, with the Raiders coming to town, whereas I think Minnesota probably put all of their resources into that huge divisional game against Detroit. So with the tough spot, I took the 3, but nothing big.
Yeah,
Worry about the kickers though. Like Minnesota, Will Reichard's money. The Rams, like their kicking situation, their special teams are a mess. But I did take the 3 small. Although it's a home dog. Home dog has no chance. I've never seen a 3-week stretch like this. I think road favorites over the last 3 weeks are 17-2 against the spread.
Yeah, that's what it kind of worries me, because we know Minnesota's the better team. Obviously, probably got to the peak of their market last week as a favorite over the Lions, who are just kind of stampeding through the entire league right now. But what worries me with the Rams is, you mentioned, their offense is in dire need, and they really need this red zone, these red zone issues to kind of regress to the mean, because I feel
like where Kupp can really help.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm like. He needs to be healthy, and he needs to be, like a guy, like he needs to be available for all these plays. And, if we know that, I think then, there's some I would still want probably a more like a 4, honestly. I mean, I just worry about this Ram offense. Every week, it seems like they should be putting up more points, and every week it's just underwhelming, and they're letting teams back in. I mean, the Raiders outgained the Rams last week. You talk about, you better hope they put some, they were looking ahead to this game, because I mean, if the Raiders can get it in the end zone just one time, they could have beat the Rams. So this team, I'm probably laying off this team until I see guys back. And like Whittington, he ran no routes last week. And now they're saying he's going to run more routes, but like in place of who? I just, there's something's a little up with this offense. Kyren Williams, all he can handle. This Ram team, I mean, if they lose Kyren Williams, usually you don't talk about running backs, but I mean, I don't know if Stafford's the same. I don't know if Stafford's the same guy, or if it's just the lack of receivers. But I would like, the receivers aren't too bad, and it's just been a struggle for this Ram team. So I'm a little worried
it's
about
still
it.
a team to beat. I mean, they beat a relatively healthy 49ers team. They outplayed the Packers at home. I think they closed as 2.5-point dogs there. They, outplayed the Bears. And, they went to overtime with the Lions earlier in the season when they were a bit healthier. So they're feisty as an underdog with McVay and Stafford. You always have a shot. So I took the 3 on principle.
I hear you. I mean, it's crazy that we're kind of talking about the offense, because really the defense is what should be the bigger concern. I don't know I wonder if it's going to be like a get right game for Minnesota. I don't think I agree with you on Darnold. I mean, looking a little like Sam Bradford in there at that throw to Branch. Probably the difference in the game last week, but. No play for me. I would need a larger number. I don't feel comfortable even with the 3.5s that were out there too, I think earlier in the week. All right. So Stuck, you like the Rams +3, small, no play for me. Let's go to the week 8 Sunday 6-pack. All right. 3-3 week for us last week. 2-1 for me, 1-2 for you. We do, for those new listeners, 2 points for our first 2 picks, a point for our third, and then a point for our total, which we'll give out In the next section, bonus point if you sweep all of those. 30-12, Stuckey. Got some catching up to do. Let's go. Let's get
need
hot.
about five straight sweeps.
Hey, I mean, it's at least 2 or 3 are doable. I think I got there, so it's definitely doable. But I'm up first this week, and I'm going to say hello, darkness, our old friend, because with my first pick of the week 8 Sunday 6-pack, going with the Cleveland Browns plus 9.5 versus the Baltimore Ravens. Anything over 8, I like in this spot. I think the market is underrating Cleveland. Finally, I think we can finally say the market is truly underrating Cleveland because we don't have to worry about Deshaun Watson, who was efficient last week, but he's been a huge liability, which I'll get to in a second. But before we get into the quarterback, let's look at what's going to be around him. Cleveland got back right tackle Jack Conklin a couple weeks ago. Jedrick Wills, the left tackle, they got him back about a month ago. So that's big because you were playing DeJuan Jones, James Hudson, Zach Zinter at tackle. In terms of PFF grade, among 79 tackles, DeJuan Jones, 9th worst, Hudson, 8th worst, Zinter, worst of 79. They also activated Pro Bowl guard Wyatt Teller. I don't know if he's going to be back this week, but they didn't just designate him. Yeah, they didn't just designate him. They actually activated him. So he has a good shot to play. So this offensive line could be at least back to average, maybe, because it's been really bad. Of course, they got Nick Chubb back last week, handled, double-digit touches. So that might increase a little bit more this week.
Yeah, it should. He barely touched the ball in the second half. And Stefanski said they wanted to just make sure that he was okay. And he got out of this week unscathed and looked good. So his workload should increase this week.
Yeah, and you're going to need, Baltimore, excellent run defense. We know that. So you're going to need some of that Chubb physicality, to stay on schedule. But I think the real reason that Cleveland is underrated here is because the passing offense could go from one of the worst all time to serviceable, at least. Cleveland's going to start Jameis Winston at quarterback. And that's big because, first of all, DTR, who they had active as a second quarterback last week with Winston as the emergency, if you go look at 80 quarterbacks with at least 150 dropbacks since 2021, DTR is 77th of those 80 in EPA per dropback. Jameis Winston, 21st. You look at 53 quarterbacks with at least 400 dropbacks over that same span. Deshaun Watson, 50th of 53 in EPA per dropback. Jameis Winston, 16th. So I don't think Jameis Winston is even necessarily anything more than average, but he's put up above average EPA per play numbers in, limited action ever since that 30 interception season. And Deshaun Watson, until last week, was one of the literal worst quarterbacks of all time. And this passing offense was one of the worst of all time. So this is big. Now, Njoku, Winston will have him to throw to, even though you traded Cooper. Njoku, 10 of 14 for 76 and a touch last week. Baltimore, bottom 4 in DVOA against tight ends. So should be some matchup advantages there. And then that Baltimore defense on a quick turn, Marlon Humphrey's banged up at corner. So this might be a better spot for Jerry Jeudy. DTR only targeted Jeudy once on 24 dropbacks. Winston, when he came in, targeted Jeudy 36% of the time. So if Humphrey is banged up or misses the game, that's big because Jeudy can go inside and out, as can Elijah Moore, but he's not really a factor these days. But I think that Humphrey injury looms large. And on the other side of the ball, Zay Flowers also a little bit banged up. Baltimore's number 1 receiver. He's dealing with an ankle. Got a quick turn for him as well. And Cleveland's defense getting a lot healthier, getting back to that unit that was top 2 last year. Myles Garrett off the injury report, it looks like. Denzel Ward off the injury report. Juan Thornhill and Grant Delpit, the 2 very good safeties, returned last week. So this Cleveland defense at home, divisional matchup, and just don't underestimate like the hope, like just the like Deshaun. I know they like Deshaun Watson. They said all the right things, but it was just such a struggle. And I think Winston, just by not being Watson or DTR, which they've had to start both of those guys, all but Flacco for those magical 5-6 games, whatever it was. It's just been a struggle. So I think the defense. I think you get a really good effort from the defense. And Baltimore on the quick turn, a little banged up. I think this is just way too many points. And we know that Lamar Jackson struggles a little bit with these larger point spreads. So give me the Cleveland Browns plus 9.5.
Yeah, I played this. Love it. This would have been one of my picks if you didn't take it. Lamar is a favorite of 7+ by way 13, 18, and 1 against the spread, 41.9%. This is not a great spot for the Ravens. They've won 5 straight. They're on a short week for their second straight road game after a bunch of emotional games in a row. Like you look back, like the Bills, the Bengals, the Commanders, the Bucks in prime time. So it could be a little bit emotionally drained. And you mentioned the Browns defense is healthy. They've upgraded now quarterback. They changed play callers, and that was the game plan I was expecting. Playing into their strengths last week against the Bengals until Watson got hurt. And I think Winston now gives them more upside. It's a couple point upgrade. I mean, Watson was dead last in adjusted EPA per play. He was worse than Levis, 34.6% success rate. And this is the first time we get to talk about this in a while. Jameis is a dog. I mean, Jameis is a favorite. You never want to back. He's 8-19 against the spread. As an underdog of more than 3 points, 19-10-1 against the spread, 65.5% covering by 4.5 points per game. So yeah, healthier offensive line. I like the spot here. Browns will show up. This is a divisional game, even with their record. And I do think it'll, with Jameis in the lineup, it'll provide some more juice. And I think that they show up here against the Ravens and keep this one close. I mean, if they play that last week against the Bengals, they play that game 100 times. The Browns win a bunch of them. I mean, Dustin Hopkins had a nightmare day. I mean, how many points did he cost them? A kick return touchdown, a missed field goal, a missed extra point. So, yeah, their defense, their healthier defense came to play. They held the Bengals to 4 yards per play. And even with Winston and whatever DTR was doing out there, I think about 11 of 24 with 2 picks, they still outgained the Bengals by 100 yards in that game. So I like it. I think this line is too high. I would have been on it as well. For my first pick and the second overall of the Week 8 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins -3 at home against the Arizona Cardinals. I'd go up to -125 on this. Doesn't really matter for the contest, but I think the Dolphins are significantly undervalued here. I'm assuming Tua is going to come back. But with my injury luck, Tua will get ruled out somehow, and it'll be Tim Boyle in there, I assume.
Don't even go there.
So now you can expect a little bit of a drop off. You can price that in with Tua coming back after such a long layoff, coming back from a concussion. But maybe half point. Before the season, when these two teams were healthy, I would have had this spread around a touchdown. And Miami's been so bad on offense that I think you're getting a lot of value here. I mean, Tua and their offense is fully healthy now across the board. Offensive line, weapons, backfield. Tua obviously knows how to run this offense. And how do you slow down Tua? You got to get pressure on him. Cardinals can't do that. And they just lost Gardak too. I mean, they've lost now 2 edge rushers, 2 of their interior defensive linemen. I mean, even Murphy Bunting, it doesn't really matter that much. He got hurt. I mean, their secondary's bad. They can't get any pressure. This defense is horrendous. It's the only unit in the league allowing a success rate over 50%. It's in a league that the Panthers are in. For what it's worth, Miami's defense is actually going under the radar, and they've played some bad quarterbacks, but they're one of 5 teams allowing a success rate under 40%. And maybe they get Agba back. Maybe they get Holland back. They could get a bit healthier. And it's also just a terrible spot for the Cardinals. Short week, traveling across the country. And they're kind of fool's gold what the Cardinals have done this year. I mean, they're 4-3. Excuse me, what are the Cardinals? 3-4?
3-4. Yeah.
3-4. They had a 1-point win and a comeback against San Francisco because the 49ers had their kicker get hurt. and they had a 2-point win over the Chargers. They should have lost that game. I mean, you go back to the first half, they throw a pick, the pick gets fumbled, and they recover it. The Chargers go down the field, hit a long touchdown, fumbled through the end zone. Later in that game, the Cardinals have a touchdown drive where they fumble, and it somehow they recover. They recovered all 3 key fumbles in the game. I thought Harbaugh made some bad coaching decisions on 4th down late in that game as well. But that was another 2-point win. And, their one really convincing win came against the Rams in just a great spot when the Rams were basically playing with their practice squad. Their other losses came by 28, 21, 6, and 7. And this is when you want to play Tua and the Dolphins, when they play a bad team. This is what the Dolphins do. When healthy, they dominate bad teams. Tua is 17-10 against the spread versus teams under 500, 63%, covering by almost 5 points per game. As a favorite in those spots, 15-7 against the spread, 68%. So there's just no reason why this Dolphins offense shouldn't cook against the Cardinals, even if there's a little rust and a slight production dip out of Tua. Cardinals can't cover. They can't get pressure. They have injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, and it's just a good spot situationally. So I like the Dolphins here, playing 3 at home. I mean, I think this line should be closer to like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think the big advantage for the Dolphins here is they're explosive. Like now, if Tua is back, they're explosive. They can get ahead of the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, really what's kind of going a little bit under talked about is that if the Cardinals can't run, it gets very shaky. I mean, Kyler Murray hasn't eclipsed 214 passing yards since week 2. That was the only time he did it. I mean, he's not getting, he's not delivering the ball downfield consistently.
Harrison again looks like disinterested on many routes.
Right. He's not separating on every, like, consistently. Like, it's sometimes there, sometimes it's not. Wilson, will look good for a play or two, but he's not a guy that you can, get 10 targets every week to. Dortch comes and goes. I mean, McBride, he puts up volume, but I was looking at his efficiency numbers. He's kind of like league average yards per target. Like, he's not really providing a massive edge. He's just somebody for Kyler to throw to. And he's a great tight end, but something's not unlocked, and it has to be, you have to start looking at Kyler, because you look at Cliff with Jaden Daniels, and not to take anything away from Jaden Daniels, but I mean, now we're just getting Kyler whole new system, second year in the system, full off season, no injury, and it's still just not looking good. It's not looking good to me.
Dolphins also they're getting pressure up the middle and the interior. That's one of the reasons why their defense, I think, has been underrated and grades out pretty well. That's one way that you really shut down Kyler.
Yeah, 5'10".
Yeah. I think this is just a great spot and a good matchup for the Dolphins. There's really any path they want to take to offense, they should get. Look at the Chargers last week. What did Herbert throw for?
390, 380, something like that.
With who? His top 2 receivers out. He's throwing to Fajoku again.
Jalen Rager.
And exciting. Will Dissly going nuts.
Yep. So 349. Sorry, we overestimated. 349.
349. Like, with a bunch of nobodies. So yeah, the Dolphins should cook here. They need a game like this too. And by the way, even with Snoop last week, they should have beat the Colts.
Very unlucky. My goodness. Yeah. It ruined our money line parlay.
Yeah. They should have won that game. Of course I had some Dolphins.
Of course. That wasn't your fault. That was ridiculous. I mean, the Colts couldn't do anything all game. It was crazy.
I mean, neither could the Bengals, and they cover 6.5 on the road. But it might not be my fault. But
T. Higgins playing well.
You either win or you lose. I mean, they held it. The Browns shut them down until a couple turnovers and the D worn down. But you either get to the window or you don't. And I did not with the Dolphins. But they played well that game. Their defense is is
They played well on one side of the ball.
well.
Yeah. On that side. Yeah, they I don't think Tyreek and Waddle was their first target somewhere in the third quarter. It was just absurd. All right, for my second pick and the third overall in the week 8 Sunday 6-pack, going with the Dallas Cowboys plus 4.5 at the San Francisco 49ers. And this comes down to the spot. The Cowboys coming off a bye, had to sit around for 2 weeks, listening to all the talking heads call them soft, listening to their former Hall of Fame quarterback calling out the receivers, just Jerry Jones getting into arguments with media, they're just kind of chomping at the bit here, ready to go. Meanwhile, San Francisco, you mentioned it earlier. What's their offense going to be this weekend? But Michael Parsons has a chance to return. Jerry Jones says he's a game time decision. I feel like Jerry Jones is kind of desperate, and I don't know how realistic it is for Micah to play, but he's got a shot. But let's assume he doesn't play. We already know CMC is still out for the Niners. Brandon Ayuk is now out, torn ACL. So that's their wide receiver 1 and their top running back. Just looking at Brock Purdy, who's been kind of winging it and making some bad decisions, but bailing himself out just by, getting some crazy luck and some crazy throws down. I mean, he's great. Don't get me wrong. I love Brock Purdy, but it's been a little shakier with, the receivers in and out of the lineup. And I haven't loved the decision making at all times from him. And I haven't loved even some of the play calling, but Ayuk and McCaffrey alone, that's over a third of Brock Purdy's career targets, yards, and touchdowns. If Debo misses, and he was in the hospital into Monday with pneumonia, so I mean, hopefully he gets better as soon as possible. But if he misses,
might be out a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing. Yeah, pneumonia is nothing to joke about. You need lungs to play football. So if Debo misses, now you're talking about over half of Purdy's career production in targets, yards, and touchdowns.
And just the flexibility of the offense without Debo, it's a whole different offense. We've seen that in the past. And now without Ayuk, maybe still no Jennings. Kittle's banged up.
Conley, the number 4, is banged up. You could literally, you could have
4 point
Pearsall.
I think
Pearsall came straight off his first game coming back from getting shot. This dude runs a route on 84% of the dropbacks. They talked about, he was struggling a little bit with conditioning, but he had to be out there. Targeted 5 times for 21 yards, 3 catches for 21 yards, 7 yards per catch, 4.2 per target. The separation just wasn't there. So
Pearsall and Cowling were the 1-2 last week.
Yeah, Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell kind of vomited on the goal line, but Purdy got the touchdown instead.
Pearsall, Cowling, right? The 1-2 last week had 0 career catches.
Yep.
Last week.
Yep. And then you got, Ronnie Bell drops everything. He was at one point he was benched. I think he was a healthy scratch at one point. Now he may have to be in the rotation. But even Jennings, Jennings had some great games when guys were out early this year. But he has a hip injury, and we didn't when we recorded last week, we didn't even know Jennings was going to be out. I don't even know if he was on the injury report at this time last week. So
typical.
I'm not saying right. I'm not gonna count him as 100%, even if he is active. Chris Conley cannot separate. Like you saw it last week. They were throwing routes that they would normally throw to Ayuk or Debo to Chris Conley, and it just wasn't there. So I think this is a big problem, and this is when you start to see Brock Purdy look a little bit more human. This guy has just been, MVP caliber, flirting with 9 yards an attempt his entire career. I think that's his exact career average, actually. So taking nothing away from him, but this is a game where, especially because everyone's so down on the Cowboys, if Brock Purdy struggles, and I think he will, everyone's going to start talking about the system quarterback thing again. It's not true. I think Brock Purdy does have talent, and he does add to this offense in a way that Jimmy G and all these other guys never did, with some of his movement, some of the things and just some of his accuracy and things like that. But this is when you start to see bad Purdy. We saw it for a stretch last year when all the guys were out. Around midseason, I think there was that Browns game, that Vikings game, back to back, and I think there was another loss in there. But
and it wasn't anywhere close to that what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So the only positive is you got Trent. As long as Trent Williams doesn't get ejected again, at least you have him. But they'll probably be better than last week, just based on the fact that at least Shanahan can game plan for this. But Shanahan he's getting a little cute and doing some odd things. Like I think he's going like too deep in his bag sometimes, and it's not really working out with the guys he has on the field and with the way Purdy kind of makes decisions. And like sometimes there's just like not the right hot reads, and sometimes there's just odd route combinations and weird personnel running the route. So I don't know what's up with Shanahan. He needs to simplify it, but it's just a tough spot here, especially with the Cowboys coming off a bye and really being able to kind of dig in here. And you look at the Dallas offense, I still think this Dallas offense is decent. Dak Prescott getting a lot of flack in the media, but CeeDee Lamb is, he started the year a little bit slow, wasn't playing as many snaps. I think you get a great effort from Lamb after he got called out from, dogging it on routes from Troy Aikman. Tolbert's ascending. Turpin has some, if you get the ball in his hands, he has some pop. So Ferguson is back. So I still think this, and they're using Dowdle over Zeke, which is great for their, rushing efficiency and for their catching out of the backfield. So I think Dallas offense will be fine here. They had a couple of weeks to game plan. Remember last year, Mike McCarthy off the bye actually did some really good things. I think they stomped the Rams like 43-20. And that's been the trend with Mike McCarthy off the bye, 13-3-1 against the spread, 81% in his career, covering by 6 points per game, according to Action Labs, 3-1 against the spread with the Cowboys. And Dak Prescott on the road off a loss is 11-4-1 against the spread, 74%, including 3-1 on the road as a dog off a loss. And you look at underdogs historically, 500 or better. Cowboys are 3-3. Underdogs 500 or better that scored fewer than 10 points in their last game, which the Cowboys did in that loss to the Lions. 77-39, 66% against the spread over the last 2 decades, covering by just under a field goal per game. So I think Dallas gets its revenge for that 42-10 thumping and all those playoff losses here. Just a really tough spot for the Niners. So give me the Cowboys plus 4.5. It's looking like unless their injury situation drastically improves, it's looking like anything above a field goal situation. But I would prefer to get at least a 4 for now, just because it's still Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would have this at around
6-ish,
around a touchdown if both teams are fully healthy. I really think that with all these injuries, it's close to like a 3 to 4 point.
It's over. Yeah, it's at least a field goal, I think.
And then Cowboys coming off of a bye, like this spread. I also like the under here. I think points should come in a premium. Like the Cowboys can't really run the ball, which is how you want to attack San Francisco. I do expect San Francisco's defense to show up, knowing their offense is so shorthanded. San Francisco, they're going to play slow. I expect them to lean on the run game, which you can do a bit against the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense also should be healthier, even if Parsons doesn't come back. They should get some other key guys back. I think the Dallas defense responds after that. And how can you, it's just going to be like, look at the weapons San Francisco's throwing to. So I think there's some advantages for both defenses in this matchup. Should be lower scoring. So I think the points are even more valuable in that game script. So yeah, I think if all the guys who I think aren't going to play don't play, I think this should be around a field goal. And I would assume it probably trends. I think the total probably keeps coming down and the spread keeps coming down unless the injury news gets somehow much better, which I don't envision it as of this moment.
Oh, yeah. And one more thing. Let me just because I know you're a special teams guy, San Francisco's down to the number 3 kicker, Anders Carlson, who's missed half of his career field goals from 40 to 49. So just another reason.
Missed an extra point.
Brandon fucking Aubrey, probably the best kicker in the game right now. Like with Tucker should being a little bit more human. So I mean, yeah, just another edge for Dallas here.
Yeah, Dallas
Small
is great
edge, but an
special
edge.
teams. San Francisco's special teams are bad.
Yeah, turf and
I agree with you
Aubrey.
there.
All right.
All right,
We go
for
next.
my second pick and the fourth overall, the Week 8 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 4.5 at home against the Green Bay Packers. On the surface, it's not the greatest spot for Jacksonville. They played 2 straight games in London, coming back home, but they were in the spot last year and they, I think, beat the Colts by 2 touchdowns. So they're familiar with this spot. I actually think it's a worse spot for Green Bay. You have that emotional, thrilling win at home over Houston, and you have like the Bears on deck. Now you're going down to Jacksonville. It's sort of a sleepy spot in Florida. So, I think the Jags can carry some of the momentum over from last week's win. And I think the Packers defense has some regression coming. I like the new aggression under new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. I think it matches their personnel, but they're playing above their heads right now. I mean, this is a team, early down success rate, 31st. EPA per play on early downs, 30th when you remove turnovers. And man, they've benefited from turnovers as much as any team in the league. For what it's worth, the Jags are 11th and 7th in those 2 categories. And they got Tyson Campbell back. It's massive. Been playing without him, trying to play man coverage with just a bad group of corners for a good portion of the season. And it just hasn't worked out. So now they're much healthier on the defensive side of the ball. And I just don't think it can be overstated how important getting Campbell back is. I mean, the Packers closed as what, a 2.5-point favorite at the Rams practice squad. Now they're laying 4.5 here against a relatively healthy Jags team. Jags offense metrics are pretty good. They need to still figure out the red zone. Maybe that's just like a Jags problem, I think, but that tends to just be a variance stat. So yeah, I mean, the Jacksonville defense with Campbell is much better. They're good against the run. They're middle of the pack success rate. They have some turnover luck coming their way. They haven't been able to generate any. And the Packers defense is vulnerable. They're living off of turnovers week in and week out. I think this spread should be a field goal. So I'll take the 4.5 points at home.
Yeah, when I project it out, I can't get to the 4.5. So I'm not mad at you for playing this, but in terms of the variance, I think this Packer team actually might be a little bit of a sleeping giant. I mean, you mentioned the turnovers, and yes, Packers have forced a lot of turnovers, but Jordan Love's thrown in his 5 starts, he's thrown 1, 3, 1, 1, and 2 interceptions. He hasn't had a clean start yet, but he's also thrown multiple tutties in all 5 of his starts. And I mean, I'll say this about the Packers. It just scares me a little with this Jag secondary. I know Campbell's back, but the Packers have all their receivers healthy. Their offensive scheming looks immaculate on film. And some of the throws Jordan Love is making, even though he is turning the ball over, are just absolutely ridiculous. So this just kind of scares me. It's kind of it might be like walking into like the way I walked into the Saints scoring 51. No, the Bucs scoring 51 on the Saints. I had the Bucs a couple weeks ago. I hope that doesn't happen for your sake and the sake of this pod. But I really like what I've seen out of this Packer offense. So I do worry about that Jacksonville pass defense because they're dead last, 32nd in DVOA. Campbell does help that, but the Packers have 4 good receivers, a good tight end, and now a running back who can catch touchdowns. So I don't know how the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get stops aside from Jordan Love interceptions, which this is a luck ranking game though. And those games have hit, 63%. So I think the luck differential between these 2 teams is 26. So you got that. There are some things like I definitely did think about playing Jags, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little worried about this Pack offense here. I don't think they've fully hit their stride, and I think Jacksonville's gonna struggle to get stopped, so they're gonna need some luck. But yeah, 4.5, I get it. Is this a humidity game? How humid is it gonna be?
Let's see.
That I think that could really help kind of slow down this. It needs to be a slog. I don't think you want to get in a shootout with the Packers here. I think it's like in the 60%. Is that? I don't even.
Yeah, 60%.
Yeah, that's high, degrees. Right?
It's
60,
not
70s.
overwhelming, but yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
high.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely a lot working in your favor, but I just no play for me on that one. Just
Muggy is considered
back.
like Muggy is like between 55 and 65. Oppressive is like over 65.
Okay. So it's flirting with it. It could get
Yeah.
there. And there, for what it's worth, like I said, luck ranking game, those at over 60%. And we've tracked a bunch of sharp action on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is one of the most sharp bet games. Let's see. We got, as we record this, we have 80%, over 80% of the bets and 97% of the money on the Green Bay Packers, but we have tracked 8 sharp moves on the Jaguars. So the fact that 97% of money's on the Packers and this line went like from 4.5 to 4 at some spots. So this is you are on the right side.
Well, that sounds like
we hope.
Every bet that I've been on in the past 2 weeks. So there's no home dog, a sharp home dog.
Yeah.
The whole world's on the other side.
Year.
It's got no chance.
I mean, just real quick, because I mean, this is important for betting, in making these picks. Like, do you think there's something tangible further disintegrating with home field advantage, or is this just kind of a randomness, typical randomness that you see in like a 7-week sample size?
Yeah, I mean, I think home field will continue to come down. I mean, I don't have home field. I decrease it little by little every year. So I do think that it's coming down, but the success that you've seen with road favorites over the past month, is just random. I mean, like you're talking what, 18 to 20 bets? Like there's going to be so much noise in that. There's also been like just tons of injuries and like there's just random stuff that happens in games that so I do think that there's something to home field just continuing to disintegrate, but this stretch has been just an outlier.
All right, for my third and final pick of the week, number 8 Sunday 6-pack, the 5th overall, I'm going with the Chicago Bears -2.5 at the Washington Commanders. Now, it's a little risky, admittedly, because Jaden Daniels hasn't been officially ruled out. He didn't practice Wednesday. Most sources think he's going to miss at least a week. It's just he's too important, and it's a kind of oblique injury. It can affect throwing motion, things like that. He is a guy who runs, takes some hits. So I do think. Like,
are we sure Daniels matters? Maybe it's just Cliff after what Mariota did last week.
I mean, I'll get to that, but I was gonna say, like, this is not for the faint of heart. There's a chance I could look really stupid and he plays, and this line is gonna flip, and I might have to bet the Bears again as a dog. But I like Chicago. I'm higher on the market than Chicago. I know you've been actually lower on the market than Chicago, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. But when I watch Chicago on film, and I'm not an Eberflus fan. I'm kind of agnostic on Waldron. Never saw the hype, but also didn't think he's like terrible or anything. But this team offensively, after those first 2 weeks where it was just nightmarish, I think Caleb Williams averaged 4 yards an attempt, and the goal line situation was horrible. Just everything you could think of. Komet wasn't playing enough. Everett was playing too much. Every week, they seem to correct their most glaring issues. Now, it would be nice if they just didn't have these glaring, decision-making, schematic things in the first place, but they've been improving a lot. And I think a lot of people are just kind of looking at them as like, oh, it's just the same old Justin Fields Bears with the same old coaching staff and, some shiny new toys, but it's still, they haven't beat anybody. And I don't think that's fully true. I think they have had an easy schedule, and it's helped, but that does build confidence in a rookie quarterback. You see Caleb Williams playing a lot better. First 2 starts, 4 yards an attempt, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Last 4 starts, 7.9 yards an attempt, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. And he started to run more in that last game too. They started to incorporate. So every week they're kind of incorporating, I think, more and more on Caleb's plate and kind of switching things up. And I actually like some of the pass game schemes that they were, especially in that Jacksonville game. I mean, I thought Waldron was in his bag in that one, that play to commit. Even the play to the into to DJ Moore was I think interesting schemed play, because it was just kind of it got more one-on-one, and if Caleb makes a throw, that's a touchdown. So I like some of the things they're doing. I think the final step for them is getting Rome Odunze more involved, and usually see rookies more involved off the bye. I think he's actually get more explosive and getting more separation than Moore and Allen right now. So I think this offense still has upside. I still think they could get better in the run game. There's still some interior linemen kind of missing some things and whatnot, but the run game has improved. The goal line running has improved with Johnson for Herbert. Swift has gotten it going. Williams is running more. Williams is the schemes in terms of the routes down the field are better. Allen's back. The team should be healthier in offense. Defense, they're number 7 in DVOA. We'll see about some of the guys, some of the guys in the secondary. Brisker, I think, is still in protocol, which is unfortunate. And I think Gordon still is not practicing. But I mentioned it last time, when they played Jacksonville, they still got studs in the secondary with Bayard and with Jalen Johnson, who was one of the best corners in the league since the start of last season. So Washington has one really good receiver, Terry McLaurin. So I don't think you need all your guys in the secondary to come back if you don't have Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels was just so freaking good. You go back to 2018, 87 quarterbacks have at least 250 dropbacks. Jaden Daniels is number 1 of those 87 quarterbacks in EPA per dropback. Now that doesn't mean I'm saying Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback of all time, or he's better than some of the other quarterbacks on the list. It just means that that's how above their heads this team was playing. Like, this team, it's just unsustainable how good he was. There's a big gap between Jaden Daniels and that second place guy on that list, which is Drew Brees. So you look at Marcus Mariota now has to come in, and the Panthers are a joke, so we're not going to look at that game. But it's Marcus Mariota. We know who Marcus Mariota is. He's the guy who threw off his ass backwards, literally ass backwards in a game a couple years ago when he was on the Falcons. Almost got an ass backwards pick 6. So don't respect him. Don't respect Cliff without Jaden Daniels. His Washington, don't really respect his Washington receiving core. Olamide Zaccheaus leads him in targets per route run. Zach Ertz, I mean, like him as a cheap fantasy streamer and stuff, but at this stage of his career, he's not without Daniels and without a plus quarterback. I don't think he's adding a ton. So if Daniels is out, I think this is where everyone's screaming Washington due for regression. Their 64% scoring rate on drives leads the league by 14%. The league leader each year is usually below 50%. It's rare the number 1 team in scoring rate per drive on offense cracks 50%. Washington's at 64. Where do you think that regression is going to come? In a Marcus Mariota start? I think so. So I think the Bears a little bit underrated on offense because I think they're getting better, and I think they'll be even better this week. Washington defense is terrible still. 23rd in DVOA. They got a lot of pressure against, bad O-lines, but I don't think they're going to do a ton here. And Daron Payne is out. And Dorrance Armstrong, he's a little banged up. I think he'll be back, but, is he 100%? I don't know. Front doesn't look great. The secondary is terrible. So, yeah, I think this is just another one of these matchups where Chicago lucks into catching a team at the right time, just like they caught the Rams practice squad and the Jaguars without Campbell and some of their guys. Like, I just think this is another spot. So going with Chicago -2.5. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I need more info on Daniels, and look, the Bears are gonna potentially look out again. They have been improving. I've upgraded them a bit, but yeah, they played the Panthers, who were missing their entire team gets hurt during the game too. We know how bad the Panthers are. The Jags had injuries on defense. The Rams practice squad. The Colts had injuries. They lost that game.
Let's just look at Washington's defense. Is Washington's defense any different from those?
I don't know. I mean, Washington's defense has surprised me. I've upgraded
Dan Quinn. I will say, I have respect for Dan Quinn, and what he does on defense. But I mean, talent-wise, Washington's right there.
Look, Washington held Arizona to 14, Cleveland to 13.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Carolina, they shut down. I thought Carolina was going to move the ball in that game. They
yeah,
were not
well,
able to do anything.
I think we all thought Carolina was going to be better. We all got to eat that. So I'm
I
not.
mean,
I will say
Carolina's offense under Dalton had been decent.
for like one
And
game against the Raiders, who gave up in week 3. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we got so excited for Dalton because we all were high on the Panthers preseason.
I mean, they
That's
put up
I'm
20.
gonna just eat that one. That's all. I'll take the responsibility.
I mean, their offense was
I was
grading out.
wrong
Like,
on that. I don't think
their
the
offense
Panthers
was
offense
grading
has
out
been good
league
at all. I
average
think
with
Chuba
Dalton.
Hubbard and the line has been good. I think the passing offense was kind of a it was like Adoree Jackson on the Giants a couple years ago. It's like a figment of our imagination. It's like Dalton's numbers are actually pretty bad.
Yeah, but I mean, they still got the 24 against Cincy, 20 against Atlanta. So they were able to put up some points. To put up only 7 in that game, with Dalton only threw for 90. I mean, that was so.
Yeah.
I don't really have any feel on it. The Bears were getting super lucky. They might get lucky again here. I mean, I agree. Washington is one of the worst defenses in the league on paper. They're going to go these last 6. Their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their last 5 games are going to be the defenses of Washington, Jacksonville, Carolina, Los Angeles, and Indianapolis, all with injuries. Up next, Arizona and New England, all with injuries. Pretty crazy. I have no feel in this game.
One thing I'll say is, shout out to the Action Pro subscription. So, I'm not one of those people that looks at like the money percentages and the bet percentages and really makes decisions off that. Like, I have to, scout the game, handicap the game to, arrive at a pick. But I will say it really did help me in particular a lot. And I think it's very helpful to see every week if you can put it in context. But I did kind of use it to gauge what was kind of going on in the market with this game because, obviously the Commanders would have been favored if they were open, they were favored, on the look ahead, even with this situation. But the books had Chicago, -1.5 to -2.5, since the Daniels news, and 70% of bets, 79% of money on the Commanders. And yet this line has been creeping upward. So I think, if the fact that sports books are kind of willing to take all that, Commanders action as a dog here and still, moving the line toward the Bears kind of tells me that, like there's, they feel confident with, the fact that Daniels is going to miss. I think it makes sense. So I just wanted to point out that that was kind of part of the calculus in this one. So I do think that we should be safe here, but there's a chance that could look really dumb.
Yeah, week to week, I think Daniels is going to miss, but I haven't.
Week to week means nothing this year. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I've gotten every week to week go against me all year. So we'll see how it plays out. For my third pick in the 6th and final of the Week 8 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals -1.5 at home. Anything under 3 is fine. There's a 1.5 out there right now against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not a believer in this Eagles team. Yes, they destroyed the Giants last week. I'm looking at their body of work over basically the last 16 to 17 games. And I get Joe Burrow here. I mean, I think the Bengals are a couple points better than the Eagles. I'm getting them at home. The more desperate team here. You give me Burrow against a good team. And by the way, I mean, who are people are saying the 2 best teams in the league are right now? The Ravens and Chiefs. The Bengals should have beat them both. Burrow is 16-7 against the spread versus teams over 500, just under 70%. This Eagles defense has holes for days. I think Burrow and these receivers just can efficiently move it on them down the field. Eagles have benefited from some just good scheduling spots and teams that are beat up in the right places. Their offense doesn't look right. There's probably going to be no Dallas Goedert still. There's no Jordan Mailata. The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause is the Bengals could be without Orlando Brown. He was at practice today, but you could have Cody Ford playing tackle, which
terrible.
isn't
He's
ideal.
terrible. He's terrible.
Yeah, he's
Sorry.
atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't mean to shit on anyone's career, but I mean, he has not performed up to the expectation of an NFL replacement level tackle, even most of his career.
So I'm hoping Brown can go. He was at practice today, so that hopefully is a good sign. That is the one thing that gives me pause, but the Eagles without their left tackle going up against Hendrickson. Hurts has been horrendous under pressure this year. This offense just looks like the same as it was the end of last year. And last year, you could say, yeah, last week they put up 28 points against the Giants. And Hurts threw for 70 yards in that game. He was under pressure the entire game. Barkley just went off in a revenge spot. And they went 3 for 3 on 4th downs. Hurts hit a bomb to
that was
AJ
a great
Brown
throw.
down the sideline.
That throw actually made me go, oh, like that might have been the best throw I've ever seen him make, just considering the way the pressure was in his face. Like that was that. How many guys make that throw? But I agree. I think I agree with you. But continue.
Yeah, they miss Goddard. They miss Mayada. They still miss Kelsey. Like, the offensive line is insane. They're getting too much pressure. I don't like the way the offense is being called. But this is just simple. Give me a desperate Burrow at home, team that's 0-3 at home, that's just had tough luck losses all season. I think the Bengals are the better team. They're at home, and Eagles have some injuries and a vulnerable defense. So I'll take Cincy. I think this line should be a field goal.
I'm kind of in line with this. I go either way with this. I have it a little bit I have it inside of 3. So I do have some thoughts on this game that I'll talk about later in the pod. So I'm not gonna belabor it here, but I could see this one going either way. But let's wrap up the 6-pack, get to our pep talk, and we'll get into our total. So to recap, you got the Dolphins -3, the Jags +4.5, and the Bengals -2. So your quarterbacks, I think you're finally feeling the pressure, man. You're feeling the pressure of these L's.
These teams, one of the things that I have noticed this year in particular is the bottom of the league is way worse than usual. The worst teams, and some of that is injuries. But man, and that probably has something to do with some of these home dogs not covering.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With the bad teams that have injuries, they've just been lifeless. There's been less parity this year than in recent years.
Yeah, because I mean,
especially the AFC. AFC.
I mean, Huntley, the Titans situation, Dolphins situation. I mean, it's just been bad. But I mean, Richardson,
the Browns.
Actually, I shouldn't say Richardson. They've actually been winning. But yeah, the Browns. Because this time last year, we were back we were like, oh yeah, Josh Dobbs. We're gonna got some covers off him. I mean, there was
Patriots,
quite a few guys.
Raiders,
Owens. I mean, this year. It's kind of just been, and it's crazy because the public really was doing horribly until I think that 1 week where all the road favorites hit. But you would think the public would have been doing a lot better this entire year, because it's just been kind of a lot of the game results, in my opinion, have just been like, don't overthink it, right? It's just been like that. Like I had the week I went over on the 6-pack a couple weeks ago. I had Drake May in his first start against the Texans. Overthought it. We know the Texans can stomp them, even though they hadn't won by margin. The Spencer Rattler against a healthy Bucks team, or a healthy Bucks offense. I mean, it's just, it's just, I think you could just overthink it. But like you said, if these quarterbacks without good quarterbacks,
that's hindsight. We've been doing the same thing. I've been doing the same thing for 20 years, and it works. I mean,
but you have to adapt, because that's part of the fun of it.
I do think the bottom of the barrel is worse than normal. So I've had to aggressively downgrade some of those teams more than I normally would.
For me, it's just kind of spending more time handicapping potential favorites, because me on this pod. I mean, I think neither of us take many favorites, but I probably took favorites 5% of the time the first 3-4 years in this pod. I've probably taken them more 20%, and just in general this year, just because it's just kind of
I got 2 of 3 this week.
Yeah, there were slates where I wouldn't even like. I would kind of mostly spend time handicapping the potential dogs and not even really look at the favorites. So that's kind of been working out so far. But yeah, you definitely have to adjust. But I say that to say Miami -3, Jacksonville +4.5, Cincy -2, Burrow, Lawrence, and Tua. Great quarterback lineup for you. I got Cleveland +9.5. Dallas +4.5, and then the Bears -2.5. So I got Caleb, Dak, and Jameis is probably Trevor Lawrence is probably the worst quarterback. Jameis is probably the worst quarterback we got. So that's pretty good for us here. So let's go 6-0. All right, for the Week 8 Coaches Pep Talk, we're going to another actual coach just Pep Talk, and that's going to come to us from former Buffalo Bill coach Lou Saban back in 1974. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go back to back. I'm going to dedicate this one to you, Stuck, because, we know what we're doing here. And you had me cracking up last week when you dedicated it to yourself. So I think this one actually fits. So we're going to dedicate this one to you. I see a triple sweep in the future for you, man. Let's go.
We're at the crossroads, and no question about that. But it's not the end of the world. I just want us to do a job that we're capable of doing. If we die, we die together. You can get it done. You can get it done. What's more, you gotta get it done. Let's go.
All right. Favorite total of the week. I started first for a 6-pack. So what you got for your Week 8 total?
I'm going to go with the Bills Seahawks under. What did we do last week? We had 2 divisional. I think we both hit our totals.
I had the Browns, Bengals, and you had the Giants, Eagles. So yeah, no sweat there. Bills.
Yeah, I did have the Browns under too, and I was like, I sat down. I was like, you know what? I got some good numbers. I'm due for a good Sunday. Sit down.
Kickoff return.
First play is I have the Browns in the under. Is a Bengals kick return touchdown. Luckily, the under got there, but so I'm gonna go with the Bills Seahawks under 47 or better.
It's at 47.5. You can have the
47.5.
It's at there's a couple spots.
There could be some weather here, some rain, some wind.
Yep.
I think both defenses do a good job of limiting explosive passing plays. I think both defenses are underrated in the market due to some of the injuries that they've had to endure. I think both teams have good defensive-minded head coaches that can game plan very well. DK Metcalf, not sure if he's going to play. I would assume not, but who knows this year. I think Tariq Woolen will be back, which is huge. He's been one of the best corners in the NFL. So, and the Seahawks defense had to play like multiple weeks with almost nobody along their defensive line. And so their run defense is much better than their metrics show. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of explosive plays in this game, especially if there's no Metcalf. And there could be some weather. I think that both coaches will have not only good game plans, but good in-game adjustments. So I like this to be lower scoring than the market is assuming.
Yeah, especially with the weather, I think that definitely adds something to it. And, this day and age, I mean, get to 40, 47, anything like 40 in the mid 40s and high. I mean, these are high total. It feels like these are high totals. So yeah, it's not easy to get over those numbers. And I think Buffalo, they were more pass heavy last week, which I liked, but they've been very run heavy. Kind of lower play volume. You get the rain, you get Seattle O-line issues. So I think there's a lot working for you, and you could have some long drives. Because Seattle without if Metcalf's not there, they're not going to be as explosive. They're going to have to dink and dunk with Smith and Jigba and things like that. So
yeah, I'm sure McDonald talked to his former friends in Baltimore who shut down this Bills offense a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I think both teams have a good game plan here.
I'm gonna go with the Bengals under 48, and this is why I talked about, like, I'm a little, I kind of could go either way with the side. I know the Bengals have been the sharper side. You made a good case for them, but I do feel confident about the total going under in this one. I already talked about it. Both teams left tackle issues. Mailata on IR at the hammy. He was graded out as the second best tackle in football at PFF. Fred Johnson, excuse me. He's not a good, like Lane Johnson at right tackle. Amazing. Fred Johnson is like the bizarro, like the complete opposite. 22 pressures this year on 97 pass blocking opportunities. That's a 22.7 pressure rate. For context, the NFL average for a tackle is 6.2% pressure rate. 22.7. It's like 4 times as much. And we're getting to 100 opportunities now. It's not even just like, all right, one bad game. So, I mean, Jalen Hurts had Giants in his lap last week. That's why he barely threw for any yards. He was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks last week. So they might have to turn to just like somebody off the street or on the practice squad. And they're no guarantee to be better either. But this guy, Fred Johnson, just is not it.
Going against Hendrickson, not good.
Yeah, right. And then on the other side,
no Goddard either. I don't think so.
Yeah, most likely no Goddard. But, even if he's back, you're going to have to take away some of his pass catching and use him blocking more. So that is still not great. But Orlando Brown is also big. Orlando Brown Jr., questionable with the knee or what is it, tennis leg? I don't even know what they're calling it. He's a top 10 graded pass blocking tackle this year out of 74 qualifiers. So he's been really good in pass pro and kind of average, decent hit or miss in run blocking. But pass pro, this Bengals, that's what you're really worried about with this Bengal team is them throwing the ball. And what this Bengal team is wont to do, and you've mentioned this, they just like to drive up the field. Like they're not getting as many explosives.
They're slow too.
Right. And Jamar Chase, I mean, T. Higgins, shout out to T. Higgins. I always loved him as a player. He is playing his ass off. He's drawing more targets than Chase this year, pretty much every single game they play. But Chase has had a couple explosives, and it was that horrible coverage by the Ravens. It was that the horrible tackling by the Panthers, but they've been a little bit fewer and farther between this year. So I feel good about these defenses kind of trending upward as well. Cincinnati's defense, number 1 in fewest explosive pass plays allowed rate at 4.6%. I'm talking 20 plus here. Philadelphia is also top 8 at 7.2%. They're also both top 13 in fewest 20 plus rushes allowed. So not as many explosives. The Bengals, even when they pass, it's a lot of, Burrow's very efficient underneath. You get some longer drives. Philadelphia is the same way, run it for, 4 or 5 yards a pop. But I don't think they're going to get it. Barkley's just going to go crazy like he did against the Giants, because this Bengal run defense has been getting better. Now, part of it, they played some really weak run offenses the last couple weeks, but the run defense has been a lot better. And part of that, I think, is them getting healthier. BJ Hill is back, top 10 percentile graded defensive tackle. He missed a couple games. Sheldon Rankins missed 3. He's back. Mike Hilton, their slot corner, even he missed a game. He's back in action. So I think they got a safety on the injury report, but overall, I feel better about their run defense than I did earlier in the year when it was just a mess. And the Eagles, they're trending up, and that's kind of why I was excited to play them against the Giants last week, because I do trust Vic Fangio, and I know his defense. It's going to kind of take some time. So I think the early bye came at a really good time for the Eagles, especially on defense. Obviously, they were able to get their offensive guys healthy too, but on defense, don't look now, but they have 3 cornerbacks all in the top third of the league in terms of PFF grade. Quinyon Mitchell is 69.2. He's 33rd out of 105 qualifiers. Darius Slay just above him at 69.7. He's 31st. And then Cooper DeJean, the rookie. Is it DeJean or DeJean? And I hear people
DeJean,
say
I say DeJean,
okay.
but
I've heard it both ways, but hopefully I'm not mispronouncing that. But Cooper DeJean, 82.7. If he had enough snaps, he would be number 5 among all corners. So cornerbacks, which used to be a liability, trending upward for Philly. Fangio doesn't want to give up explosives, so I think he'll be satisfied to let Burrow dink and dunk it up and down the field and try to force some mistakes, some penalties. Their tight ends have been known to fumble the football at times. So I just like the schematic way this sets up. Even if the offenses do have success, I think you're going to see longer drives, Philly with the run, Bengals with the short pass game. And gotta love that this is a luck under. Our luck rankings, look at expected scores and kind of factor out all of the luck, kind of like we do as we're handicapping these games. But it's just a really great model, and it's luck when a game triggers a luck under, which means it's projected -5 or above -5, versus expected, which this game is a minus, I think it's -9. Then luck unders have hit at a 60% clip over a 200 plus game sample size. So that Bengals Browns total last week was another luck under as well that hit. So love the luck rankings for these totals. They always kind of make the most profitable ones pop. So love this, love it even more because it's popping in our luck rankings. But yeah, I think 48 is just too many points. I think this is more of a, the line might or probably should be closer to 40, 46-ish. I know these teams have some studs, but I just think the way these teams kind of run their offenses, you're going to get some longer drives even when they score.
Yeah, don't hate it. Although I do think the Eagles defense is they have a lot of guys that are grading out well. The last 2 weeks they played the Browns and Giants, who couldn't get off of.
But you would think they would trade. You would think they would be trending up. I mean, I've said that from earlier in the year. I thought the Eagles were going to, kind of get better as the season progressed because that Fangio defense takes a while to learn. They did, kind of get some talent in there. They're still not going to get a ton of pressure, but, Cody Ford, if he has to play for Brown, I mean, he's their version of Fred Johnson, maybe even worse.
Yeah.
So,
my concern is that with two good receivers, I mean, the Bengals have a number of different weapons, but
this number of good receivers.
This could look, the Eagles defense could look like it did against the Bucs. When the Bucs,
I think it only got to 46 though. Wasn't it like 31-15?
49. There were some fluke points in there, but the Bucs had 450 yards of offense.
Yeah.
And obviously Burrow is much better than Baker, but that's what I would worry about. But I don't mind it. If I had to bet that, I would look at the under.
All right. So you got the Bills Seahawks under 47.5. Could be some weather. I got Eagles Bengals under 48. For teasers, we don't really like any teasers this week. There's no real long teaser opportunities. So we're just gonna kind of skip over that one. I will say, if you're looking for kind of like do something with favorites, like I was thinking of teasing Houston down, but now they're down to 5. So you could do a money line parlay. Houston -218 against the Colts, and then the Chargers -310 against the Saints, who are really banged up, and that gets you -108 odds. So it's kind of like doing a teaser where you're teasing, down to a pick or something like that. But you're getting -108 instead of paying the 120 if you can get if you can get good numbers for the money line. But even if you don't, you should still get it, in that teaser juice range. So that's all I'll say on that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's get into our underdog money line parlay. All right, you hit another one last week, Stuckey, up to 3 on a year. I got to catch up. So you hit with the Seahawks last week. It wasn't much of a sweat at all. Where are you going for week number 8?
Yeah, two quick sentences on those two games. Saints could get healthier, maybe a wide receiver. I don't know. I don't think Derek Carr is going to play. Chargers could get healthier, a wide receiver. Maybe a sneaky over in that game. But it's hard to trust the Saints offense, but it's also hard to trust the defense. I think Chargers should win that game. But injury, that's an injury watch game for me. Colts, Texans, same. I want to watch Texans injuries. Buckner and Jonathan Taylor practice today for the Colts. Anthony Richards is just really bad. Really bad. He's -11.3% completion percentage over expectation. There's no accuracy. This Colts team continues to get very lucky. They're much better with Flacco. Look, the Texans offense has issues in protection, early downs, but penalties. They're relying on Stroud to bail them out. They're going to miss Nico Collins, who just rips apart the Colts and zone defenses. But this is a game where Stroud on a fast indoor track can bail them out on their third downs. So I do think the Texans win that game. Richardson is just so inaccurate and so inefficient.
It's one of those don't overthink it games, right? It's just
Yeah.
like the Texans do have injuries, but and CJ Stroud threw for 80 yards last week, but he's CJ Stroud. He's got Tank Dell. He's got Stephon Diggs. And
at home against the zone defense,
at home against a defense that they already played, and it's easy to prepare for. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. Money Line Dog, I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to go. The last time I got crazy, I think it was the Panthers.
I think we hit like a plus 10 something that week.
So this one will be a lot higher because I'm going to go with the Raiders. I'm hearing a lot about it is the Chiefs. Look, they're very efficient. Their defense is playing well. Every week, the entire team gets hurt, whoever they're playing. I mean, it is insane. It's the entire offensive lines. Last week, the entire receiving group for the 49ers gets hurt.
Well, you don't have to worry about that with the Raiders because they're already hurt.
Yeah, maybe Jacoby Myers maybe comes back.
Does he still exist? Do Raiders have
Brock
any
Bowers,
receivers?
You're gonna throw to Brock Bowers a billion times here, but the Chiefs just can't build. I mean, they can't build margin. Like even the 49ers basically are a bad offense last week when they lost all their guys, and they even struggled to build margin in that game, even against the Saints who lost all their players. Like it wasn't even until late.
13-10. That's not.
I mean,
I feel like we're gonna get so much hate for it's the
Saints game was
13 against the Saints.
The Saints game was 16-13 in the fourth quarter.
But it didn't end that way.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone is in it against them. They're not like
Fair.
blowing teams out. And I mean, they also easily could have lost to the Ravens, to the Bengals, to the Falcons. So this team has no explosiveness. I know they added Hopkins. I don't think he adds that much explosiveness.
If he's even playing.
Yeah, if he's even playing this week. They also lost Watson, who I think it matters because I think that Johnson is really bad. Who's going to replace him at cornerback? The Raiders are just, you want to fade Mahomes as a favorite of more than 7 quarters. I also did play the Raiders plus 10. Mahomes is just like Lamar. 43% is a favorite over a touchdown. 39% is a double-digit favorite. 9-14-2 against the spread. Home dogs of 10 plus, by the way, are 57% historically. But the Raiders are a weird team. They're feisty. They beat the Chiefs last year as double-digit underdogs in Kansas City.
That was that Christmas game, right?
Yeah, they beat the Ravens earlier this year. So divisional game, double-digit dog, like I'll take it. I know there's all this talk about the Chiefs are mad because the Raiders social media team posted a Kermit the Frog thing in the summer. Like what does that mean? Like Mahomes is magically going to start having receivers to throw to down the field. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that means anything.
I hope this doesn't mean. I hope you just didn't jinx it and like Xavier Worthy, and I took that personally and like goes for like 200-yard breakout. But nah, I actually like this play. I think.
By the way, this would have been this would have been one of my 6-packs if you took one of my other ones. Like my 3 were in the running along with the Browns and the Raiders. The Browns definitely would have been.
I took the Browns from you. You're welcome.
And by the way, I mentioned all this injury luck that the Chiefs are getting with their opponents. Guess what they have next week? The Bucs. The Bucs, who have no receivers left.
Yeah, man. We think. I mean, they got some young guys that they drafted in the last couple of years. I mean, who knows?
But obviously, it's a 5-point drop in the market right now without or 4-point drop.
It's rough. Those are that's just receivers. Those are elite receivers. Yeah.
I'm taking a shot with the Raiders.
I don't. This is, I've watched football long enough to know, the Chiefs they're amazing. They're great. And don't ever want to, I said that last week, never want to bet against Patty, but if you are going to bet against them, why not just maximize your return? Because these are the games that these are the trap games. Like, I know it's a division game, but I've backed the Chiefs in the Mahomes era on the road, I think -10 against the Raiders and had to eat an L because, I mean, obviously they had Derek Carr then, so probably a little more functional of an offense. But I could absolutely see, they beat the Niners, just they got there, if you didn't think they won the Super Bowl, convincingly enough. Well, they just doubled down. So I could see a little bit of a letdown in this spot. And I think at plus 400, certainly worth a little sprinkle at least. And I mean, mine is kind of in that same vein. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots, home dog, plus 290 against the New York Jets. And I have been on the Jets the last 2 weeks. Terrible calls by me. I've just grossly overestimated.
They had some bad bounces last week,
talent.
and their entire secondary got hurt, to be fair.
Yeah, but
which is going to impact
the guys who are on
week.
the field who I thought were going to play well aren't playing well. Like,
that's true.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw those picks in like almost at any other point in his career. Garrett Wilson that's luck, but he's been mistake prone his whole career. They can't block. They're not like Rodgers is not like finishing off enough drives. They can't kick field goals, which I didn't think would be a recurring issue.
Their D line's way worse. They could have four starters in the secondary out.
Like they're letting Russell Wilson complete moon balls that they know are coming. I mean, this team. I thought the coaching change might give them a momentary boost. You also get some some element of surprise with the scheme, but now they're 2 losses and 2 games in. This is game 3, and we're sitting here with Todd Downing at OC, Nathaniel Hackett twiddling his thumbs, a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Mike Williams, who might have just had his confidence completely destroyed. You're benching, you're phasing out your good-looking rookie running back and to overwork a guy who tore his ACL 5 games into his rookie season in Breece Hall. I just don't like anything about this Jet team. They're 25th in what are they? 20? They're in the 20s in overall DVOA, so they're not even significantly better on paper than the New England Patriots, who have been starting Jacoby Brissett for most of the year. Drake May is a substantial step up from Brissett. The Jets are 25th in overall DVOA, 15% worse than average. The Patriots are 30th. They're 41%. So they're terrible, but I think that's a lot. I think those numbers converge a lot more with Drake May, who averaging over 250 passing yards per start. Jacoby Brissett was under $150. Kendrick Bourne's getting healthier. May has been able to activate Hunter Henry. They're still not going to protect worth the lick, but every time I think the Jets are going to get pressure, the Jets, they have a pressure rate on paper, but it makes no difference. So I think this is a prime spot for Drake May to pick up his first win. Division opponent coming in. They already beat him once, revenge spot. Probably, they've been really struggling. Probably think they could, easy way to get back on track, get right game. And I think you hit a couple explosives, and this Jet offense continues to just makes mistakes. I can see it. So going Pats plus 290. Raiders plus 400. That is a plus 1850 parlay, moneyline dog parlay. If anyone out there wants to get real crazy, but this is I think this is probably our longest odds that we've ever taken on this pod. I don't remember both of us taking touchdown plus dogs. So this should be very interesting. Very interesting. Now it's time for best of the rest, the games we didn't discuss in any other segment. And the first one, I can't believe, the Titans are sitting here plus 11 at Detroit, who you almost talked me off against Minnesota, and you're not just foaming at the mouth to back the Titans at plus 11 in Detroit here. We'll let down spot for the long.
Yeah, I think it's the side, and it's the spot. I want to hope that Levis isn't starting. Rudolph is a little better. It's not much better. I want to see if Snead is back.
He's been terrible too. Not a great scheme for him or something.
Bad, but it's corner grading and is
no, but I mean, just watching him, it hasn't been great. I mean, the numbers of his completions allowed are okay, but in the scheme of the defense and stuff, it's not great. But
it's not a great fit. But I want to watch the injury report. They lost Hopkins, and where are they at mentally? I don't know. This is a bad spot for the Lions, though, emotionally. Maybe the under is worth a look. The Titans need to really run the ball, and they're not going to do that against Detroit.
Yeah, that's what's tough about this one is for them as a dog. They need one of those a drive or two where Pollard just carries them, and you might not get that against Detroit.
Yeah, so I think it's a little inflated in the spot as the Titans, but as of now, it's a pass.
Yeah, I'd say another thing about this year that's kind of struck me is I feel like there's been a lot of times where like it's getting a lot more important with some of these bigger dogs to kind of look at the number, and even if like you have it projected, like I think I have this like more like 9 or 10 or something, but
yeah, I'm like 9.
So when I look at the line, I think it was up to like 11 and a half, 12 even at one point, but just kind of saying, you know what, like I don't feel good about it. It's just like the Panthers every week. Like the Panthers, I show value on them every week, but it's just you kind of look at them and say just one little thing with this lack of well, in the Titans case, it's lack of offense. Panthers case, lack of defense, and things can get away from them and just kind of laying off. So yeah, I think this is a layoff because even if it's a bad spot for the Lions, I mean, they kind of deserve a little bit of slack. Like they could probably blow out the Titans in their sleep. So yeah,
Jameis Williams probably suspended
yep.
for what it's worth mentioning. All right.
Yeah, but I mean, Jared Goff doesn't throw incompletions. So and Sam Laporta hasn't done nothing in the whole year. So this is like a sleeping giant ready to awaken. So I could see Detroit failing to cover here, maybe like a 2013 Arizona game that they had a few weeks ago, but wouldn't bet on it. And that's what we're here for. Let's close it out with Falcons at Bucks. Bucks plus 2.5 at home. Line essentially flipped from Bucks minus 2.5 to Bucks plus 2.5 with Evans, Godwin going down. Just a brutal for Godwin, especially because he's going to be out for the year. The ankle. 46 is a total. What do you think about this one? If it gets to 3, would you consider the Bucks? I mean, Baker's been playing really well this year. He had some of that volatility with the interceptions, but I don't know if I'm that impressed with this Atlanta team either. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the market adjustment is right. I mean, it doesn't mean as much going across 0, but Bucks revenge, divisional game, outdoors, the second meeting. I'd look under here. I know these teams have just been flying over every week, but I think the Bucks are gonna, they play slow. They're gonna have to be more conservative here. Falcons can kind of sell it on the run. No Godwin and no Evans, especially like the first game, like on a short week. That's tough. So Falcons don't allow any explosive plays. And I think this Bucks defense, they've been getting embarrassed. I think they'll show up here. They have been dealing with a lot of injuries. They have played some mobile quarterbacks who are really good. They won't have to worry about that here. So I would look under. Maybe Bucks if it gets to 3, but under or nothing for me. And the one game we didn't mention, Panthers, Broncos. Broncos out the 10. Panthers are down to practice squad guys. Bryce Young is going to get the start. I'm not laying 10 with the Broncos, and I'm not playing the Panthers. Easiest pass on the board. That game could end 7-0. That game could end 7-0.
Yeah,
but the Panthers D is so bad. Like Mariota, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a sneaky over, but not with Bryce Young. No, not with Bryce Young. I don't know what to make of that. How do you place that total?
You just weigh it with the Broncos.
How do you set a total for that game? The Panthers D is so bad. But it's Bo Nix.
I mean,
and then the Panthers have Bryce. I mean, Bo Nix, if you take away garbage time, has been horrendous overall. The total, I don't know how to set a total for that game because the Broncos D is very good to get Surtain back. How's Bryce Young going to score? How many points can you assume the Broncos? I don't know.
The Broncos are getting to 20. So if I had to bet this game, I would just lay it. This is why I'm not betting the game, but if I had to, I would just lay it and not overthink it because we know Bryce Young is terrible. We know the Panthers have no defense, and we know Sean Payton is a good coach with extra time to prepare. And against like non-elite defenses, which the Panthers are the worst in the league, the Broncos have managed to cobble offense together. They've gotten their run game going. They're playing. I think they're playing the right group of personnel at receiver now because you got Sutton with the rookie Franklin and the rookie Vele in the slot. So I think there's another team that I think is going to get better. It's not going to be pretty, but I think this team is going to get better. And I think it's just going to be one of those. It's just a team that's like in that mediocre glut of teams that it's not like a piss poor offense. I think they just played some really tough matchups. I think Bo Nix cleans up some footwork things. He's always going to kind of bail himself out with the run. I think the Broncos. I think it's at least like I could see like a 20-3. So yeah, maybe you lean under. I don't know if the Panthers.
Gun to your head, you play under. You play under or over?
Yeah, I would play under. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could have another game like that Thursday night game with the Saints, but then you can't count on that like fumble sixes and stuff like that. But I do think the Broncos get to at least 20, and I do think it might be a sneaky blow up spot for the Bronco offense. So
yeah, I'm thinking about it. You can only play the Broncos here.
Yeah,
Broncos are nothing.
Yeah, don't overthink it. That is the motto. All right, that's going to be a wrap for us. Thank you for listening to the Action Network podcast. You can hear more of me every week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy, DFS, player projections, props, all that good stuff over on the Fantasy Flex podcast. And you can hear Stuck talking college football over on the Big Bets on Campus podcast. Also be sure to subscribe to Big Bets on Campus on YouTube. You can find Stuck on X at Stuckey2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next week, let's get this money.
Let go.